Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Many of the greatest game shows in history have been linked to male hosts, contestants, and panelists.
Let the games begin!
We started off with the guys, like the Mr. Charming, like ching ching, and his tooth twinkles when he smiles. And that's just the stereotype of what we have.
Here are two real beauties we know you'll want to look at.
Women really did take the role of the sidekick and really just the assistant pretty lady.
But despite the obstacles, there have been several who have broken the mold and brought prominence to women in game shows.
We proudly welcome to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Miss Vanna White.
Now women are coming up and they're becoming the main attraction.
From a pioneer who opened the door for the female host.
This is very important. Give them everything you have.
When Arlene Francis was captaining the ship, you knew it wasn't going to sink.
To a contestant who hit the jackpot and became famous as a result.
You're right!
Nobody in the world knew who she was.
Another whose longevity is without equal.
She did so many different television shows, talk shows, news shows, game shows, sitcoms.
To one who would forever change the role of the co-host.
Vanna White. Vanna!
It was crazy. I was everywhere.
A woman who made being rude a massive success.
The weakest link. Goodbye.
She was like Mary Poppins from hell.
And a journalist who gambled her career by taking the reins of a successful game show.
It's going to be a knock on the gender. Like, say, we gave a woman the show and look what happened.
And the Emmy goes to...
Meredith Vieira, who wants to be a millionaire?
These are the stories of the women who changed game shows.
That television is a tremendous influence, for better or worse, on people. It's an extremely powerful, powerful medium. So whatever you do on it, I think you need to take it seriously. The role that you play, whether it's as a game show host or a talk show host, people that watch you and relate to you, they come to trust you and to believe that they know you. And so when you talk at them and to them, you should appreciate the power of the words that you share. I think more women should be in the position of hosting game shows. I'm not quite sure why it has been dominated by males. I mean, maybe back in the 50s, I say most things were dominated by males, but so much about game shows is compassion. And they're people shows, and they're emotional shows, and men are great at it, but so are women.
For years, women were given a list of reasons why they couldn't make it in the man's world of game shows.
The common answer was that no woman had ever tested well as a game show host. Like they would do a pilot and they would be hosted by a female and then they'd test it and the audience would hate it. And then the answer to that was, well, we as a society like to see men in roles of authority. We accept that easier than we do women.
There was a real reluctance to use women in television news. There was a reluctance to use women as the presiding officer of a game show.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again.
As far as a game show host was concerned, they all sort of followed the mold of Bill Cullen and John Daly, the host of What's My Line. They were very upstanding, certain age white men, and that's just the way they were.
Here he is, Bill Cullen.
Game shows had their start on radio back in the 40s and 50s and were extremely popular. They have been a staple of the entertainment world. Having a background in radio is what helped me over the years because it teaches you how to ad-lib. If you can't ad-lib and get yourself in and out of situations, you're not going to last long on the radio.
I got it all over me, too, so you have nothing to worry about.
The simple fact of the matter was, most people who had experience in live radio situations were men. And those people who had that experience transferred best to television because set pieces were falling, audience members would faint, contestants would faint. You had things going on around you, and you had to have a captain who could anchor that ship.
Well, tonight is Father's Night on Blind Date.
In 1943, Arlene Francis hosted this radio show, Blind Date, and it was a live audience. It involved servicemen vying for a date with a pretty girl.
Hope nobody I know is watching me do this.
That's all right.
And the producers of Blind Date decided that it would make a good transfer to television in 1949, and that they would just keep Arlene Francis as the host.
Blind Date, America's most romantic program starring lovely Arlene Francis.
Interestingly, Arlene Francis was the only person who was really allowed to get to the level of hosting a game show in the 1950s. She was considered to be a person who had that kind of credibility that could look into the camera. You would believe her in the same fashion that you would as a male.
What did you retire from?
I have been in the Navy.
Really? How long?
33 years.
Think you'll get a steady job next time?
I'm going to try.
There was an elegance about her. She was well-spoken, but she had a great sense of humor and a wonderful sense of warmth.
We have this photograph here of my mother as radio's oomph girl because of her voice and how effectively she could get her qualities across the airwaves.
Until then, this is Arlene Francis saying good night.
Arlene Francis was primarily a Broadway actress before the game show things started. She began on Broadway very early, and she got a lot of radio jobs after that. So she came to the game show world with a lot of experience in being a personality in front of a live audience.
Remember, they haven't seen each other before or talked to each other. It's all going to happen right before your very eyes.
She appeared on the television version of Blind Date from 1949 to 1952. But it was as a regular panelist on the popular quiz show What's My Line where Francis became a household name.
On my left, one of the wittiest and prettiest in television, Arlene Francis.
Well, thank you very much.
On What's My Line, Dorothy Kilgallen and Steve Allen and Arlene Francis and Bennett Cerf was an unbeatable combination. They were all so bright and so intelligent and so different.
But Arlene, do what you do.
Yes.
You think I'm nothing.
No. Does what you do have to do with men?
I can do it then, I think.
When she was on What's My Line, you got the idea that Arlene had really studied and that she knew a lot about a lot of occupations.
Do you sometimes walk the dogs that the human beings aren't able to take out?
Probably the preeminent intelligent female contestant in the history of television.
My mother had a particular talent of being able to exist comfortably within that image of the loving wife and mother, of being attractive, and at the same time to use her wit, her intelligence, her urbanity to break through that and convey to women a sense of real power, integrity, and that they themselves could be whole human beings. They didn't just have to fit within this narrow persona.
So nice to have you over on this side of the fence for a change.
It seems strange to be sitting next to a moderator. I like it.
When I'm looking at the younger people on television in the media today, I don't think that there's any one person that I can think of that can bring being a Broadway actress, a major radio personality, and then major television personality, plus a person who acted in 6 or 8 feature films like Arlene Francis. I mean, across the media boards, she had it all covered. She was involved in everything, and she did it all very well.
When we return, an unknown psychologist takes on a big money quiz show
Is our psychologist from New York City, Dr. Joyce Brothers.
and reinvents the role of the everyday contestant.
You have this kind of cute, perky, smart female who seems to be going against the stereotype. And I know about punching, I know about violence.
We have our first woman as a millionaire.
There is some element of luck, but you've got to put yourself out on the line. Give it a shot.
Today's game show contestants consist of everyday women looking to win big.
Congratulations, you are indeed a giant killer.
It's so strange. It's the most unreal experience to go from complete obscurity to national fame.
But the first and most famous of these overnight celebrities was psychologist Dr. Joyce Brothers, a 27-year-old New Jersey housewife who appeared on television's first big money quiz show.
The $64,000 question.
There were no game shows, at least no big, important game shows in terms of numbers of listeners and watchers before the $64,000 question broke through.
You had very, very low budgets on a lot of the early game shows. Most people, if they won $200, $300, it was a big, big payday. And then all of a sudden, 1955 comes along, and a guy named Lou Cowan develops a concept that was based on his old radio show called Take It or Leave It that gave away $64. Well, he decided to add 3 zeros to that at a time when the average income in America was about $4,200.
Tonight, Adelita Quijado can try for a $64,000 question.
The big draw for me was the money that they were going to pay. At the time, my husband was working as an intern at Mount Sinai, and I was teaching at Hunter College and Columbia University, and we were making just enough to get by. I thought what would be interesting is a woman who is proficient in an area that no man was.
Which do you think you'd like to take a crack at?
So I narrowed the field down to boxing and plumbing. And plumbing didn't have the juice, so I chose boxing. She made index cards about everything there was about boxing and memorized it. You have this notion where you have this huge audience who's very used to sweaty males, and here you have this kind of cute, perky, smart female who seems to be going against the stereotype. I'm a housewife, but I'm really smart in this esoteric, almost, sort of voodoo art, Freud kind of stuff. And I know about punching, I know about violence. I mean, how could that not just grab people's imagination?
Jimmy and see me, Joyce?
Yes, I can.
Ready for your $16,000 question.
Okay.
Questions were terribly easy in the first 3 levels, and then they got terribly tough.
You're right for $32,000.
To the point where they were asking me names of referees.
What man refereed the comeback attempt of an ex-champ against Jack Johnson at Reno, Nevada?
Tex Rickard.
You're right!
When I walked out of the booth, they said to me, "You've won," with all the fanfare and so on. They gave me a check. So I had my $64,000 and a lot of fame.
So we welcome the new kid on the block, Joyce Brothers. Welcome, Joyce Brothers.
Nobody in the world knew who she was, and she very smartly and very smoothly transitioned that into a lifelong career.
Let's find out more about flirtation as we talk to Dr. Joyce Brothers in person. Now.
I think that she made that whole concept of the psychologist, of self-help, very approachable.
We all have human frailties, and it's very hard to be objective about our own.
Well, she becomes a household word.
Oh, is it Dr. Joyce Brothers?
It is.
But Joyce Brothers started as that expert in the booth on the $64,000 question, a psychologist who knew something about boxing.
I think she made a statement, her statement, about that I can be cute and blonde and pretty and frilly and deferential and smart as a whip.
Important as contestants were to game shows, our next woman is referred to as the First Lady of Television.
She did so many different television shows, talk shows, news shows, game shows.
Betty White became part of that sort of game show landscape, and you would see her, and it was like, oh, I know Betty.
How is he? Is he a good kisser?
Well, for a beginner.
Here she is, one of the all-time great stars of this medium, Miss Betty White.
She is one of only 10 people who has appeared on game shows in 6 different decades.
This is the delightful actress and bright television game-playing star, Betty White.
Betty White has such a likable character.
Brad's been doing bicycling, too. Did you know that?
She has been bicycling.
Well, in fact, the unit manager said she'd been pedaling it all over town.
When you're that good at comedy, when you're that good at timing, it doesn't get old. That's why we find things funny now that were funny 50 years ago.
Nudist.
Colony.
Betty White was a pioneer in television, pure and simple. She did so many different television shows.
Betty White in Life with Elizabeth.
From Elizabeth White to the sexy Sue Ann Niven, and to her most noted role as the spacey Rose Nylund, Betty White is a television mainstay who has appeared in countless programs for over 50 years. Although she is best known for her lovable characters, White also played a vital role in the evolution of game shows.
I never thought of being a part of game shows, but I'd always enjoyed playing games. It kept your mind sharp and kept you on your toes. It was always great fun to do. You play games with some nice people for a couple hours and go home. That's not the world's worst way to make a living. For years, programs all had to be men because that's the only thing that people would listen to and take seriously. When we broke into the game show business, it wasn't to, by gosh, we're going to do it as women. We just were glad that all of a sudden the rules had changed and we got to do it. But I was never into it as a feminist thing or anything like that. It was just, I think we can do it almost as well as the guys.
Sitting in for Arlene, having flown out from Hollywood today, is the charming and beautiful Betty White.
Betty White came from this unique sort of pool of people who took to it, got it, understood it, and had fun with it. And I think that really shone through in her performance.
May I assume you are not female?
That's no. That's one down.
What do you mean?
And
no?
Yes. The question was, may I assume you are not female?
And the answer is no?
Answer is no.
I always did get those two mixed up.
Sir?
Dummy.
Dunce.
Yes. Betty was so good at playing games that by the time we got to the 1960s, a lot of people forgot she was an actress, that she did comedy, and that she could do theater, because she suddenly was billed on the air as television personality Betty White.
You know, Betty White is one of the great game players of all time.
White appeared on nearly every hit game show, from What's My Line to Match Game and Pyramid. But it was through her early appearances on Password where she met the show's host, Alan Ludden.
Betty White, nice to have you in Password.
Thank you, Alan. Nice to be here.
What's new and bright in your future?
It was the third week that Password was on in early 1961. It was very nice to suddenly meet this man, and we enjoyed the game and played the game, and that was fine. And pretty soon it was not, hello, Betty, how are you? It was, hello, Betty, will you marry me? And like an idiot, it took me a year to say yes.
Is the password marriage? Alan Ludden, Betty White.
It all worked out just fine, and everybody was happy.
They wouldn't perk up if Betty took off her clothes or anything, would they?
For the kind of panel shows that were very popular, particularly the 70s when I was a kid watching them, I mean, she just was a home run every single time.
Tarzan is so musical, I wish he had a real instrument. Every night, Tarzan spends hours trying to tune his blank.
His gourd.
His gourd.
Betty White, she could just cut your kneecaps off and say it's so nice.
Congratulations there, Charlie. How is he? Is he a good kisser?
Well, for a beginner.
34 years after she first appeared on television, Betty would finally land a game show of her own as the host of Just Men in 1983.
And I'm your very lucky hostess, Betty White. I got an Emmy for it, which I'm sure was not for talent. It was gender-oriented, because it was the first time that a gal had gotten an Emmy for a game show. Reggie, who said no, he cannot remember the names of all his previous lovers?
I would say Stephen.
You remember both of them. Okay, I was sorry it didn't go longer. It only lasted, I think, 1 year. But I sure had a ball while I was doing it.
I think the woman who has made the most significant impact in the history of game shows on television is Betty White. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because she was always regarded with respect by the audience. She brought great humor that was always in good taste on the air. She came across as a member of your family, somebody that you would love to have as a big sister or as an aunt.
She never acted like a star. She never acted like she was an untouchable host or contestant. She was just one of the girls. And people loved her for that.
Work.
Job.
That's it.
Betty White became part of that sort of game show landscape, and you would see her, and it was like, oh, I know Betty. Her wit and her energy and all that has just continued.
How about seeing me later?
Stop by tonight. I may have something for you.
I'll be glad to.
If you're involved in it and busy enough, you don't see it from the outside. You see it from the inside, just doing the best you can with the tools you've got.
Women had found great success as hosts and panelists, but only one would redefine the role of the beautiful sidekick.
Vanna White. Vanna!
We never really had the host with this beautiful woman who was an element of the show.
Everybody knew who Vanna White was. She's a pop culture institution.
It was crazy. I was everywhere.
Now, a big welcome, please, for our hostess. Ladies and gentlemen, here is, in person, Vanna White.
I've been very lucky to have a steady job for so long.
Hi, folks.
Oh, thank you.
There are more men hosts of game shows, of course, but there have been a few women. I'm proud to be one of them. I think all the women in game shows today, you know their name. Before, they were just a pretty face, or what did they call them? They used to call them, was it furniture strokers? I remember that from a long time ago. But now I think they play a big part in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Since the inception of television, female models have made up an essential factor of the everyday game show.
Here are two real beauties we know you'll want to look at.
From Roxanne Rosedale of Winner Take All, to Carol Merrill of Let's Make a Deal, to the beautiful women of Deal or No Deal.
There have always been spokesmodels, you know, for live event shows, whether it's a new car show or they're revealing something. I think that the very simple notion that whatever it is you've got, it's always going to look better if there's a pretty human form next to it.
No hostess is more popular and widely recognizable in game shows than Wheel of Fortune's Vanna White.
I used to watch Let's Make a Deal, and I loved Carol Merrill. When I got the job on Wheel of Fortune, I thought, wow, maybe one day everybody will know my name, too.
Vanna White! Come on
Vanna White was a contestant called to come on down on The Price is Right. Nobody had a clue who Vanna was and that she was going on to one of the most enduring careers in television history. She was just an average contestant like the rest of us on that show.
Vanna, what do you bid on that? $600 is her bid. The actual retail price of that prize is $509, and you have won it.
That was so awful. I didn't win a doggone thing.
As an aspiring actress, Vanna would eventually land a meeting with the king of game shows, Merv Griffin.
I auditioned for Wheel of Fortune in 1982. It was October, and I found out that I got the job the day before Thanksgiving. I auditioned with 200 other girls, and Merv Griffin picked me.
Vanna White. Vanna! Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. I am very excited and happy to be part of Wheel of Fortune.
That's right, and this is a family you will soon grow to know and love.
I think the reason Merv hired me was because he thought that Pat and I seemed like a brother-sister type team. I think that he thought we looked good together and liked our personalities. I could not imagine being here without Pat Sajak. That would be like Ken without Barbie. It would be like baseball without apple pie.
You know, if there were another host or another hostess, I'm sure we'd be getting along with that person too. But, you know, we feel like a team now, and it's been a great relationship.
It was the early 1980s, and Wheel of Fortune had received a complete makeover. Adding Pat Sajak and Vanna White was part of a grand scheme to reach out to a primetime audience. On September 19th, 1983, a nighttime version of Wheel debuted across the country.
It was huge because the daytime version, it was only, you know, the stay-at-home moms. We happened to be on at the dinner hour when we started in '83, and millions of people started watching.
The new audience would get to see Vanna appearing in the latest fashionable gowns and evening dresses.
Here she goes. Beautifully done.
It's like a fashion show every night. It might be a slinky dress, it might be a big bouffant thing, or you just never know.
The success of the program made Vanna White a household name, as viewers would tune in just to catch a glimpse of her.
Are you ready?
Vanna's popularity soared to the point that in 1987, the term Vanna Mania was coined.
She was able to somehow come across the screen, something about her gave her this identity as Vanna White.
She got such a following that it was Vanna White who was a bigger celebrity than Pat Sajak.
We'll see you tomorrow for more of College Week.
Everybody knew who Vanna White was. Oh, she's a pop culture institution. When Wheel was at its biggest, and it was really climbing the ratings, and everybody would start to just talk about Wheel of Fortune.
It was crazy. I was everywhere. I got tired of seeing myself. I was everywhere.
From talk shows to movie roles, an autobiography, and even her own doll, Vanna White took a mere job as a game show model and became one of the most recognizable faces in the country.
We proudly welcome to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Miss Vanna White.
I don't know how it happened. You know, I just stand up there and turn those letters, but I guess those few seconds we talk at the end of the show gave people a chance to get to know a little bit of who I was, because it's a little more personal.
How are your cats?
My cats are great. They're getting so much more exercise now.
Why is that?
I have a 2-year-old chasing them all over the house.
Oh, good.
Here she was, just kind of background noise. She just helped turn over letters, and now she's a true element of the show.
It still might be too big. Let me see.
What separates Vanna from so many other hosts and hostesses on television is she is such a genuine soul. The Vanna that you see on TV is the same as the Vanna that you would have a cup of coffee with. The difference is the Vanna you'd have a cup of coffee with has her hair pulled back in a ponytail and is wearing sweats. That's the only difference. She is still the girl next door.
This is for me?
Yeah.
Thank you, Vanna. Did you draw this? I think I'm a role model to a lot of young girls. I receive lots of letters. You know, I want to be a model when I grow up. How can I do that? How do you keep in shape? I get all kinds of questions.
Very good. Is that good?
Thanks.
I try to be who I am, and I'm not trying to be anyone else, and I just tell them to be themselves, follow their heart, believe in themselves, because I struggled before I got this job. I went on hundreds of auditions, and I feel very lucky, and I hope that I can tell all those people out there that want to be on TV, whatever their dream may be, that they can do it if they really believe in it.
Before American Idol's Simon Cowell, it was this Brit who dished out the insults.
Who is a huge embarrassment to the American educational system?
I mean, people tuned in and were like, who's the bitch in the leather coat?
Whose knowledge isn't good enough? One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
You are the weakest link, goodbye, was the phrase. That was Anne's phrase, and she said it in a very particular way.
And you didn't bank. Caroline, with 6 votes, you are the weakest link.
You are the weakest link. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Developed by the British Broadcasting Company, The Weakest Link first appeared in the United Kingdom during the summer of 2000. By the following spring, the game show, led by its popular host, had made its way to the United States, where it became an overnight sensation.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Let's play the weakest link.
I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing the term weakest link.
You are the weakest link. You are the weakest link.
Everybody was saying that. It was part of the vernacular within weeks. It was astonishing.
You're looking very nervous. Do British women disturb you?
I mean, people tuned in and were like, who's the bitch in the leather coat?
So, Andy.
Be gentle, please.
And all of a sudden, America just went like this, because we love it when somebody with an English accent tells us bad things. And now look at Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell, every time I see him, it's like, you're just doing Ann Robinson, man. You're just stealing from a master.
Hello and
and good evening. I'm Anne Robinson, and this is the start of a brand new series of Watchdog, the program that guards your interest.
In England, she was kind of at the end of her career. She'd been a journalist. She'd had a consumer watchdog show over in the UK. It was basically retired. She was well known in England, but she'd been on the BBC in the same show for about 20 years. And originally, when they did the run-throughs in England, it was a nice feel-good show. But Anne brought her own sharp point of view and ultimately enhanced it to the point where it became this character.
Twice you won the mixed doubles.
Yeah.
So is this right? The only time you've won Wimbledon is when a girl's helped you?
I thought, oh my gosh, are Americans ready for something like this? She was so extreme. I don't think anywhere on television, certainly not in the world of syndication or primetime game shows, did we have a host who was a black leather-clad dominatrix with a razor tongue.
The French press call you the Little Prince. Have they seen you in the changing rooms? What's little about you, Thomas?
It became a huge hit in England, which is where NBC first saw it. It was a daytime show when they saw it, and they brought it over to NBC to do it as a nighttime show. They weren't sure they were going to bring Anne to host in the US. And Jeff Zucker, president of NBC, said, no, you got to bring her. And bringing her was the smartest decision that NBC could have done.
That was a genius piece of casting. Anne had a gimmick. I'm gonna nail you, I'm not gonna let you get away with anything. In fact, I'm gonna slap you around if you don't know the answer.
Interested in fashion, are you?
Very much so. Can we not see?
No.
This larger-than-life quasi-dominatrix, I'm smarter than you, don't you say that because are you sure you want to mess with me kind of character?
Chuck, not a single question answered correctly in that round. Is there any beginning to your knowledge?
Anne was the original, school marm. I mean, I said that she was like the school marm from hell.
Were you stuck for something to wear tonight?
She just absolutely had that perfect persona, which I was told friends inside. I said, she's just playing a character. She's the Barbara Walters of the UK. This is a very well-read, very well-spoken woman. Here, she's just playing a little shtick.
Anthony. Did you fall in a trifle before you got here?
More often than not, in U.S. game shows, the typical host, you get the feeling they're rooting for you. And Anne really was the first one who you got the sense that she wasn't rooting for you. And in certain respects, that was part of the fun.
While Robinson made The Weakest Link a hit, Millionaire had reinvented network television.
Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
But passing the torch could mean its failure.
The syndication thing will never work, never work, never work. There were the naysayers.
She had to step into the very public and very successful shoes of Regis Philbin.
Welcome to the new weekday version of Millionaire.
I had so many questions from people who said, first of all, how can you possibly take over a show that's sort of been beaten into the ground? So it's over. The syndication thing will never work, never work, never work. There were the naysayers. And then there were the folks who said, and even if it were, how could you ever fill Regis's shoes? People will always associate Millionaire with Regis. I wasn't going to attempt to fill Regis's shoes. I was going to be me. And people would either relate to me or they wouldn't.
In 1999, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire set off an explosive game show craze that hadn't been seen in decades.
Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
At the height of its popularity, the show was airing 4 nights a week.
I watched it from day one. I'd heard a lot of buzz about it, big fan of Regis, and it just struck me at the time as one of the few shows in television that appeals to families. So I was a fan from the moment it went on the air.
Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
But it soon saturated the primetime market.
Starting tonight, we're on every night.
And the ratings faded. In order to revive the show, producers created a daytime syndicated version, and in 2002, made Meredith Vieira its host.
I am so excited to be here. Welcome to the new weekday version of Millionaire.
The reason I fought so hard to get Meredith to host this show, you know, at the time, it was just a sense that she felt right. Meredith had been on Celebrity Millionaire. You know, I remember watching the tapes of Celebrity and just thinking, she looks so perfect in this environment. Her voice is right. She looks good in that chair. She fits our show.
It's nice to finally have you here.
Thank you. Indeed. It's nice to be here.
When Regis hosted the show became all about Regis.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
The show became, you know, secondary to the cult of Regis Philbin.
They always dream that I'm mean.
But I think what Meredith has brought to Millionaire and what has made her unique, and perhaps it's because she is, like, I think the epitome of the female game show host, is for her, the show is all about the contestant, and it's all about the emotion and the journey that that contestant goes through opposite her. And that's what makes her completely unique, is she manages to take all the attention away from herself and even away from the game and just make it about the person sitting opposite her.
You said before at $125,000 how life-changing that money is, and now you are at $250,000.
Incredible.
You worked so hard your whole life, raising your kids as a single mom, 3 different jobs.
I wasn't really thinking, well, if I do this, I'll be the first woman for a while that's hosted a game show. But certainly there have not been many of them. Anytime, I think, when you're in this business as a woman and you don't do well, you always worry that it's going to be a knock on the gender. Like, say, we gave a woman the show and look what happened.
Let's do it.
I think Meredith brought a lot of things to the table as a television personality, which very few people have. A background in both news, you know, 60 Minutes, ABC News.
This is the story of one family's struggle.
And also in entertainment, The View. And so she has this wealth of credibility. She's also known as a mother, as a woman who made a career sacrifice in order to be with her children and her husband. And she therefore is able to bring to the seat a level of empathy, which I don't think many people have.
Hey, you. I never thought about it like, oh my God, I've done news for 20 years. How embarrassing to now go do a game show. We did have folks who said, if you do a game show, you can't really go back. And I thought, if you ever want to go back to news, that's the final nail in the coffin.
Oh, gosh. You're one away from $1 million.
I think there were many people within the mainstream television business who advised Meredith that it would be professional suicide for her to move, you know, from news to entertainment, and then even more, suicide again, death twice over, for her to go from The View to hosting Millionaire. And I think her recent contract with the Today Show has proven that that's completely unfounded.
How I see myself as a host is really almost as a journalist, oddly enough. My role is to sit there. I know about these people, and all my years as a journalist have taught me little ways to help draw people out. You meet folks like that, and it really affects you as a host. You can't be cynical. If anything, it's made me more optimistic about people and more caring about people, and more aware of what a kind of a neat role I have.
We have our first woman as a millionaire.
When I was nominated for Best Game Show Host, I didn't know about Betty White, nor was I thinking in terms of male, female. I was more, this is really cool. Not just for me, but for everybody that had been working on this show, and sort of against all odds and against conventional wisdom that said the show's gonna fail.
And the Emmy goes to...
Meredith Vieira, who wants to be a millionaire?
I didn't ever think I was gonna win. I didn't write a speech.
This is Meredith Vieira's first win in 2 nominations for this category.
Oh my gosh, I'm shocked. I'm thrilled, but I'm shocked.
She had absolutely no sense that she was going to go and win, but I have no doubt that she deserved it.
To my husband Richard, to Ben, Gabe, and Lily, who's with me tonight, you are the reason I feel like $1 million every day. Thank you all so much.
I mean, what she does on a daily basis on this show, how difficult that job is, and how easy she makes it look.
I can't tell you how proud I am. This is our 5th season that we're starting.
I'm not sure that I've ever searched for anything. To be honest with you, I've never had a game plan. For somebody who is the host of a game show, I've had no game plans in my life. But I like to take different paths. I've never felt like going down one road is necessarily the key to success. And when things have presented themselves, if it's felt right for me, then I've gone with it. And I've been lucky, too. I mean, a lot of it is luck, or what you do with the opportunity.
What's next for women in game shows? When we return, we'll hear from a few women who are on the rise.
Now women are coming up and they're becoming the main attraction.
I'm Kennedy, your TV barista.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this thing started with a round of opening statements, shall we?
I don't think viewers make a distinction any longer between male and female hosts. It's the right host for the right format, and that's going to give you their best show.
It is time to play Playmania.
In many ways, you can say that a game show should be gender neutral at this point. I think we've come to that stage where you don't need to have the warm, avuncular father figure or the smart-ass comedy figure.
All right, girls.
I think women, for a long time, there were always a backseat to the main host. And now women are coming up and they're becoming the main attraction.
Hey, hi, Shandy.
Hi, Chuck. How are you?
Good. I like your.
And they're becoming the hosts of the shows. They're becoming the reason why people are watching the game shows. They're becoming critical parts of the game shows.
It's not just letters.
It's lingo.
Beyond traditional studio-based game shows, a new wave of competitive reality shows like America's Next Top Model and Project Runway have not only provided women opportunities to preside over shows, but also to produce and create the entire concepts behind them.
The models that are doing it do have huge personalities. I mean, Tyra Banks isn't by any means a shy person who's just there for a look. She's very loud and has a lot of personality. So I don't think it's people who are sort of just skinny and attractive and have nothing sort of to say for themselves. I think they are sort of strong characters.
Well, we all know that you're a little bit of a diva, but have you ever been a beauty queen for a day?
If you're just playing beautiful, then it is hard for people to get past that. I think for a beautiful woman, you have to show other qualities, whether it's your humor or your intelligence. You have to show something else to win over the audience. And I think people like Tyra Banks, Meredith, they've all done that.
It has changed dramatically in the current day because of our changing society. We have seen that women can succeed in all forms of business as CEOs of corporations. Why can't they as well become successful presiding over a game show?
We have a stereotype, either we're very vicious and catty or we're beautiful and kind of dumb and ditzy. Hopefully we'll begin crossing that line, but it's difficult because the hosts, the male hosts, are also older, and the women that are coming in tend to be more young. So maybe in a few years, once those that are hosting now mature and become older, maybe we'll see a swing in the pendulum.
With what seems like an endless supply of programming for audiences today, women in prominent roles are now seen far and wide. But there are few who have brought distinction to what was once considered a male-dominant industry. Whether as hosts,
Well, tonight is Father's Night on Blind Date.
panelists,
Colony.
contestants,
Doc, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Hal.
or co-hosts.
Please join us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
These individuals have shaped the role of women and the way game shows are viewed forever.
Just a minute. It was the show that defined a decade. Blank. And made outrageous contagious.
This could take you right off the air altogether.
Rules? Oh, there were no rules. The real Match Game story behind the blank. Next Sunday at 8 on GSN.